Hello, everyone, and welcome to OHSC Interviews. I'm Vasu Bardwaj, and I'm your host for today's episode. Today, I'm happy to have with me the MP for Louis-Saint-Laurent and the Shadow Minister for Environment and Climate Change, Gérard Deltell. For sure, for sure. So we want to start off our OHSC interview segment today by asking you how you got started into politics. This is a question we ask to every single interviewee, and we're just generally curious. How does someone who's amassed your success, the roles that you have today, responsibilities, how did you get to where you are?
Well, first of all, I always loved politics. Even if I was very young, at the age of 7 or 8, I was following the Watergate affair in the news. So I was always interested and attracted by politics, by news, by TV show talking about politics. So I got involved in that very young, but not based on my family link. My father and mother were never involved in any political action, nor my neighborhood. It just because I love that. I'm not good, I'm not bad. I love that, and I follow it. Obviously, when I was a teenager in the high school, I was involved in the high school politics, as everybody, and I joined the Conservative Party of Canada, at that time led by Joe Clark, and after that by Brian Mulroney at the age of 17. And I can assure you that in 1981 in the province of Quebec, well, there was not plenty of young conservative, but I was involved in my party since I would say for more than 40 years now.
Wow. I mean, it's great to hear that people are starting young and the movement starts at a young age. It's really great and not only great, but also inspiring to hear that, people like us, there's also space for us youth in the party. And, slowly with time you advance and you also can help the movement grow with
Yeah.
advocacy and to generally project what you believe in.
And there is no bad politics or good politics. There is only politics when we feel comfortable. Obviously, I will say, be welcome to our party for sure in our movement, but it's not the case. It's not the issue. The issue is if you want to change something, if you think that you believe in something very important for you, get involved in politics. There is plenty of room, plenty of space for young people, young advocate for some issues, and be welcome. Obviously, I decided when I was in my 20s to be a journalist, so I put aside all my partisanship attitude. Obviously, as a journalist, you are not involved in politics. But 15 years ago, I decided to run on the provincial level first. I got elected in 2008 at the National Assembly, and decided to run on the federal level in 2015. So after around 15 years of a political career as a politician, as an elected person, I've been elected 3 times on the provincial level and 3 times on the federal level. So I know a few things about that.
Yeah, I mean, experience is very valuable in today's society. I mean, you can have knowledge, you can have, whatever, but experience actually, advocating for your constituents, knowing how to like for example in journalism it's writing about issues that that you're covering, figuring it about different things, new things, right? And then transitioning to where you can take those issues and represent constituents at a provincial level and now at a federal level. I mean, it's great to see, and it's great to see what you're doing in parliament as well these days, as well as how you're using that experience to do many of the things you do as shadow minister.
I can assure you that a former journalist is very helpful for a politician because the base of politics is to communicate our position. So obviously, as a journalist, you have to communicate the issue, and I would say there is some resemblance between journalists and politician, and also big opposition, because as a journalist, you have no opinion on anything. In politics, you have opinion on everything. Even if you don't have an opinion, you should have an opinion on something. Well, I'm joking, but it's a little bit a cartoon situation, as I said, but this is the truth. You cannot get involved on journalists. You have to get involved in politics. You have to communicate as a journalist. You have to communicate also, and there is some grassroots element that we shall respect when we are as a journalist and when we are as a politician, because there is new news if someone is not involved if a person is not involved in something. and there is no politic if there is no people there. Then all politic is local politic, as I said, the great statement of the United States, Tip O'Neill's, Congressman Tip O'Neill always said, all politic is local politics. So if you forget your roots, if you forget your grassroots, where you are and who gave you the power to be in the House of Commons or in the National Assembly or someone else, the power that you have, the job that you have, is because some people decided you to have that. The people of your riding, not your leader, not the prime minister, no one else, and the people of your riding. And if one day you forget it, this is the beginning of the end of your career. Always get connected with the people. So this is why this week I am in my riding, and I enjoy it, meeting people at the coffee shop in the morning, in the restaurant in the evening. This is where we have to chat. We chat. You know, a politician is not the one who speaks the most; is the one who listens the most to speak better. And same thing also as a journalist.
For sure, for sure. So we want to transition into our question and answer
Yep.
segment, where we're going to start off the interview by with our question and answer segment. And these questions are asked by members of our high school team. So the first question comes from Teppitak, and he's from Windsor West, and he wants to ask you, as a Quebec MP, is Quebec's Bill 96 a necessary protection of French language and culture, or a violation of individual rights? And why are conservatives sparking an intense debate over its implementation?
Okay, first of all, Bill 96 belongs to the provincial jurisdiction. And as a federal politician, I don't get involved if a bill is right or wrong in other jurisdiction, because as a conservative, I do respect the autonomy of each and every level. Like I will never like to see, a municipal or a mayor or a city councilor saying, hey, you guys on the federal level, you're not good doing that. Well, okay, you don't like it? Okay, fine. My job is available in each and every 4 years. So if you want to run, go run, and good luck, buddy. So that's it. I mean, so this is why if a provincial jurisdiction like Ontario would do something, and I disagree with that, I can disagree as a citizen, but as a federal member, I shall respect the Constitution. So based on that, let's talk about the Bill 96. The Bill 96 has been adopted in the National Assembly, and it's about the protection of the French language. As you know, French is very minority in the ocean of North America. There is 6 million people speaking French in North America. If you compare to 360 something, if you take the America and the English Canada, there is a lot of people. So French is always fragile, it's always challenged. The survival of French in the North American sector is very tough. The ice is very thin. So this is why, for good or bad reasons, people adopt some rules and some law. And yes, there is some concern about the fact that some personal protection has been attacked, and some people believe that, which is part of the debate. And if so, well, there is a constitution who is there. And so this is why the Quebec government decided to put in the law, the Bill 96, in the National Assembly, the use of the notwithstanding clause in the Constitution. So now we have to get back to the and I will give you a constitutional course, harsh course, very fast one, but it's very important to understand why does it come from. Until 1982, the Constitution belonged in England. The Constitution of Canada was in England. So in the 80s, after the referendum of 1980, when the no option won with a huge majority, and the Prime Minister at that time, Pierre Trudeau, said, we will renew our Constitution. So he decided to get it back unilaterally from England and to write himself his own Constitution. Obviously, the provinces were not agreeing on that. And then we had the famous conference in November 1981, when the people, the Premier and the Prime Minister decided to have our Constitution here in Canada, and with a Charter of Rights inside the Constitution. So the Charter of Rights was a very big issue. And so this is why the Premier decided to have the notwithstanding clause written in the Constitution to address the issue of the Charter of Rights. And this notwithstanding clause expressed the fact that notwithstanding the Charter of Rights, the elected people have the last word. So if you have a law that will attack some personal liberties, yes, you can, without notwithstanding the Charter of Right. But be careful, we're not talking a blank check. So who decided to say that, to put that in the Constitution? It was based on the principle that at the end of the day, it's not the people who has been appointed as Supreme Court judge who have the last word, but those who have been elected by the people. And this is a strong democratic principle. The democracy is the pillar of the democracy is the will of the people, not the will of the people who have been appointed by the prime minister, which is the case of the 9 Supreme Court judge. And by the way, in the 80s, Pierre Elliott Trudeau controlled the executive with the cabinet. He controlled the legislative with a majority in the House of Commons, and he controlled the full Supreme Court because he appointed all the Supreme Court members. So it's too much power to people to have been appointed, the Supreme Court. So they decided in the Constitution to have the notwithstanding clause to be sure that the last word will be owned by the elected body, not by the appointed body. And who decide that? Those who decided were the premier and the prime minister. But who had that idea? A conservative premier from the west part of the country, Sterling Lyon, right, premier of Manitoba, said the last word shall belong to the elected, not to the appointees by the prime minister of the Supreme Court. So obviously we can agree or disagree of that decision, but that has been written in the Constitution, the notwithstanding clause, based on the respect of the will of the people. But there is also an element that we have to keep in mind. This withstanding clause has a shutdown clause because it's 5 years. At each and every 5 years, you have the obligation to renew this withstanding clause if you want to. So what could happen in those 5 years? Obviously, you will have a provincial election or a federal election. You will have an election in those 5 years. And then the people will have the chance and the opportunity to express themselves and say if they agree or disagree. And there is a big example that we had in the Quebec history in 1988. In 1988, the Supreme Court tabled a very strong position about the fact that they said that the Supreme Court said the right of the English people are hurt because they cannot put big sign in English in front of their businesses. And then the Premier of Quebec at that time, the Liberal Robert Bourassa, said, notwithstanding the decision of the Supreme Court, we will challenge this rule and we will be sure that it's only in French in the big outside of the building of the business. You cannot have publicity or something in English, or if so, you have to be very little compared to the French version. So it was hurting personal freedom to express yourself, but notwithstanding that, they decided to do it. And in 1989, so a year later, there is a political judgment that has been addressed by the people of Quebec. And at that time, 4 members were elected to the National Assembly under the Equality Party. And by the way, Mr. MP Hall's has been the president, the chair of this party 35 years ago. And this party got a member elected 4 members in the 4 ridings in the west part of the island of Montreal, who belong to the Liberal Party, I think, before the Confederation. So this is it. At the end of the day, the will of the people is they decided not to elect a Liberal member because those people were upset. The people were upset with that decision. So this is why. Yes, sometimes some rule, some law will hurt personal freedom, who are saved by the Charter of Right. But at the end of the day, the people will decide if they want to or not. And as a federal member of Parliament, it's not my role to say I will fight this situation. But if, as a federal government, the Supreme Court is asking us a position. Where do we stand on that? Obviously, we will say, well, it doesn't respect the Charter of Rights, but it does respect the Constitution. And then this is where we have to decide what is more important, the Charter of Rights or the Constitution. Well, I think that if we cannot respect the Constitution, which law will we respect in this country? The Constitution is the law of the laws. And so this is why we shall respect the Constitution. But this we want. If we disagree with the notwithstanding clause, well, we have to reopen the Constitution. If so, why not? Okay. And then you will start a very long journey to address it. And by the way, the notwithstanding clause doesn't exist only for those situations who are very touchy. All the provinces use that notwithstanding clause for some, I would say, minor situation, hundreds of times. So this is why obviously there is a lot of political battle inside that, but as a democratic body, we shall respect the Constitution and we shall respect the will of the people instead of the opinion of the appointees Supreme Court justice person.
That was a very insightful answer, especially to a very controversial topic. It was definitely very interesting to hear the history of that as well. So we want to move on to the next question. And this is asked by Hayden in New York Simcoe. And he wants to ask you, the topic of euthanasia has been a continuous issue for decades. And as it becomes more prevalent in public discourse, in 2017, you voted for Bill C7, which aimed to expand euthanasia in Canada. However, with the debate over the moral, ethic, and legal implications of euthanasia continuing to rage on, the question arises, what is your current stance on the topic? What is your current stance on the issue?
Okay, well, there is 2 points on that. My personal point of view and my point of view as a lawmaker. As my personal point of view, I have no problem with that as long as this is a decision of the person and not decisions have been influenced by other people around them. But there is some not lifeguard, but first of all, we have to be sure that les soins palliative care, the palliative care has to be very correct and very full to those people who are in their last month or last weeks or last days as a human being. And I know what I'm talking about because my parents, both of them passed away a few months ago. My mother at 97 years old and 10 months, and my father 7 months later at 99 years old and 4 months. So, and I saw them with palliative care, and I will always thank God and to live in this country when we have great palliative cares. On the other hand, we shall also respect the will of the person who are upset to suffer too much. And yes, with very strong beliefs or strong point that we have to respect. I have personally, as a lawmaker, no problem with that. But the way, as a lawmaker, that I see it is to be sure that the person has no pressure from no one. And also they have access to great palliative care, and also there is big guard. I don't know how to say that in English, but there's some guard to be sure that we do not go too fast and too way. Also, the second point that I have to raise, I know what I'm talking about because as a provincial member of National Assembly member for my 7 first years, I attend the debate at the Quebec. And the Quebec started the debate 15 years ago. And so I attend the full debate in Quebec in my first 7 years. And since I am in the federal level, we address this issue. So among the people who are in the House of Commons, maybe I am the one, and I don't say that because I'm better than anyone else, but I am among the few who have been in both houses to talk about this issue. And all my judgment at the end of the day as lawmaker, my decisions are made also on the Quebec experience. Why? Because at Quebec, we're studying for the last 15 years, and there is no decision made for youth and no decision made for mental illness. And so this is why, as long as we don't have serious proof of scientific demonstration that, yes, we can open the door to youth and to mental illness, I'm not open to that at all. But on the other hand, also we have to respect the fact that some people will find it very tough. I saw a very emotional report on Radio Canada a few weeks ago, and then we saw a mother or a woman, whatever. We saw a parent who was in favor for youth, and a parent who was opposed for youth. So as long as we don't have a consensus around that, it's too early to decide whatever we want. And based on the Quebec experience, after 15 years of serious and non-partisan study, there is no consensus on that. So if after 15 years there is no consensus, I will not go there at all.
All right. So, I mean, first of all, I want to say my condolences for your parents, but
Thank you.
I was in a pretty similar boat with actually my cat a few months ago. I know it's not even comparable, but it's definitely sad to see. But at what point do you decide, okay, how much pain are we putting this person through, right? But at the same time, this liberal government, they're trying to say, okay, for mental health and such, for youth and such, they're trying to open it to areas which are not justifiable, right? Currently, for medical reasons, that's understandable, right? Because, like, for example, in the case of my cat, it was in immense pain, right? And you don't want it to live in that pain continuously if you care about it, right? But, like, for example, if a person's not in the right mindset or right mind frame, right, how can they make these responsible decisions, which can be life-threatening, right? So it's definitely a topic of debate, and it's definitely an interesting one as well, and one with very different opinions and different pros and cons. So
if I may add something, and I said that I participated in the debate a few weeks ago in the House of Commons, and I say, you know what? There is no good position or bad position. There is only a position where we feel comfortable. And I hate the partisan debate on that issue. I really hate that. I hate that when I was on the provincial level. I hate that since I am on the federal level. I remember pretty well in the Quebec National Assembly, among the last vote that I had was about this issue. And I remember pretty well a member of the Liberal Party who was very opposed to open the door to that. And he was, very passionate in his speech. And he said, red in his face, don't open the door to that. Don't never touch on that. It was very passionate. And when he finished, I applaud him. I disagree with him, but I applaud him. Why? Because he expressed his own belief. This is why we should do, without any attacking no one else, but just be respectful to the other people who do not share our position, and also be respectful to those who share our position, but maybe they want to go faster or higher. Well, that's their position. But we have also to remind us that we are a lawmaker. And the law will not be based on our personal point of view, but on the respect of the consensus that we can see in the society. Obviously, when we talk about consensus, you talk about someone who will agree, someone who will disagree on some level, on some other level. But as long as we don't have, in my personal case, the line that I draw on the sand is there any scientific proof that we shall go there or not go there? And as long as we don't have the green light coming from the scientific movement, I will be a scientific people. I will be very careful. And also, I base that not on the, would say, Quebec experience, but the experience of 15 years of legislative study with no partisanship. That's what we have seen. That's what we are seeing in Quebec for the last 15 years. So yes, it's in Quebec, but it could have been, in BC or in Saskatchewan or whatever. Well, maybe not Saskatchewan, but anywhere all around the country. It's only that in Quebec, we're the first to address this. I attend as a member of National Assembly when the door was open in Quebec, and I was there when the first door was open on the federal level, based on the Supreme Court decision about an issue. It's not coming from the liberal rank. It was an obligation from the Supreme Court who said the House of Commons shall address it. And I will very pay respect to the Prime Minister Harper at that time, who said, well, it's not a partisan issue to address during the election years. And so this is why he said, we will decide after the election, which was, by the way, the right thing to do, because there is no partisanship, and as far as I'm concerned, there is no partisanship to have in this debate. So, and when you have an election, this is the highest point of the partisanship. Obviously, you know, when an electoral campaign, we are very partisan. It's our raw, it's on our blood. You know, it's our part of the job of the politician during political campaign to be partisan, for good or bad reason. But this is where, and so this is why during political campaign we shall not address this very touchy human and non-partisan issue.
For sure. So we want to move on to our final question of this question and answer segment. And this is asked by Vincent in Oakville, North Burlington. And he wants to ask you, as a member of the Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development, if conservatives were in power, what would they do in order to lower emissions while maintaining economic stability?
Well, this is a big question, and this is a question of the century and the question of your generation. So this is why we have to address it correctly. The big goal is to reduce the pollution, is to reduce our footprint. Some people think it's by taxation that we will achieve that. We don't believe that. We prefer to invest in high technology to address this issue, to reduce the pollution, and to give the incentive, the fiscal incentive to those who create pollution, the emitter right now. They know why they produce emission. They know how they produce emission. We will have incentive, fiscal incentive to invest to reduce them. It's not me in Quebec City or in Ottawa who will tell, you know, the guy in this place and in his shop said, well, you have to do that to reduce your pollution. No, but you have to reduce. You know how to do it, and we will give, Tom, we will help you by fiscal incentive to do that based on the research, development, new technologies. And in Canada, we have great experience in new technology to reduce our footprint. So this is why this is our main issue. Also, we have to green light to offer green light to green energy, to have more access to green energy. And I know what I'm talking about. You know, in Quebec, we have a huge power of hydroelectricity based on our geography. You know, in Nova Scotia, you don't have power, hydroelectricity for sure. There is no river strong enough to have that kind of a facilities. But in Quebec, we do have that since the 50s. So that's great. Well, we have to use it wisely. There is a provincial government right now in Quebec would like to have this government is looking to see maybe we should have more brand new dam of hydroelectricity facility. Fine. If so, if this is the will of the Quebec government, us as a federal government, we will not duplicate the permit and the study to do it. The provincial can do that, not the federal to say we will redo, we will do again your job. No, we think that the people of Quebec and the people of provinces are bright enough to do it. We don't, not in Ottawa will tell them, oh no, I don't think that your position is good. No, if you want to, we will help you to have access to green energy. So green light to green energy, and also to be sure that our Canadian knowledge will be applied around the world. We have great expertise in Canada to protect our environmental. We shall be an inspiration for other countries. So those are the three pillars that we have to fight for, and we are very proud. Reducing by fiscal incentive in research and development and new technology. Green light to green energy to have more access to this energy. And just another example, you know, the electric car, we need to have lithium and some minerals, and so rare minerals, that's fine. We have everything here in Canada for that. So we'll green light and less paperwork, less red tape, more efficiency to have access to this energy. So reducing by new technology, green light to green energy, and we have to export our Canadian knowledge and to be sure that if we do something, we'll look at Canada, what is doing, instead of buying foreign people to do our foreign product, to do what we can do here in Canada. So those are our three pillars to be sure to address correctly and efficiently the challenge of the 21st century and the challenge of your generation.
For sure, for sure. So I want to move on to our final segment, which is called Advice for the Next Generation, where we will be talking about youth involvement in politics and more. So what should young high school students and conservatives do in order to get more politically active? And what is one piece of advice you would like to give them?
My first advice will be have fun. You have some belief in your position, believe it, and do whatever it takes to be sure that you will promote your belief. And it's not me who will say what is right or wrong for you. Obviously, I think that it's better to be with us, but we have to respect your will. This is your will. And you know what? When you are a teenager, you can change your mind without any problem. I will tell you some secret, okay? Do you know Stéphane Dion? Stéphane Dion is a very now he's a ambassador in Paris, and before that he was an ambassador at the Union Européenne for Canada, and before that he was member of the House of Commons and senior cabinet minister under Mr. Chrétien, Mr. Martin, and Mr. Chrétien, and Mr. Trudeau. And he was a former leader of the Liberal Party. But when he was youth, he was more attracted by the separatist movement under René Lévesque, the Parti québécois. This guy is a very strong Canadian, very proud Canadian, a very federalist. But when he was young, when he was teenager, he was on the other side. Well, that's what life is all about. When you are a teenager, you have to explore everything. And yes, you have the right to change your mind. It's not, a shame to change your mind. Well, obviously, when you have been elected 10 times in a row and then you decided to switch, maybe there is some issue to address. But as a teenager, explore the possibility. Look at every political party, what they have to offer. Express yourself. Enjoy it. So this is why I said, have fun with that. Enjoy it. And political life, is a very social movement that is very interesting because you will meet people who have the same belief of you. You will challenge them. They will challenge you. Well, this is what politics is all about. And this is what life is all about too. You will enjoy your life. And yes, there is some program in each and every party that you can work on the Hill and you can meet people who are doing the job as member of parliament and all that stuff. But first and foremost, do it for yourself. Don't do it to please your father, your mother, your good buddy, your chum, your whatever. No, do it for yourself. You believe in something because you think it's good, go on. You change your mind, you have the right to change your mind. But be always honest with yourself. Do it for you instead of doing it to please someone else.
For sure. So that about concludes our interview today. I want to thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you being here with us, and we wish you well in the future.
Thank you so much, and the door is always open.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.